Hello guys, and I congratulate you with a big day that on 24th of June is celebrated in Scotland. This is the Scottish Independence Day, and in dedication to this big day in Scotland, I decided to make a short excursus into English accents. And for you, I've chosen 11, the most principal ones, the most important ones, the most common ones. 11 English accents. So let's start. The first one is called the posh. It's not just the first one, it is the most typical one, the most classical one, the most used one in the UK, and you see that I've drawn for you here a small cylinder, which means that it is spoken by the aristocracy. Historically, it was spoken by the aristocracy, so as it today. Generally, in the UK, it is considered to appreciate people due to their accent. When you hear a person, you can determine from what part of the UK this person is coming, and not only, also his social and financial status, which is probably can be funny for us Russian people, but anyway, it is so. So the posh, it is typical British, beautiful, slowly, no rush here, beautiful vowels, beautiful consonants, like in My Fair Lady, where, as you remember, Audrey Hepburn we're learning to read in Hampshire. Yes, in Hampshire. So this is the example of the posh. The second one belongs to the main part of the UK. You know that the UK nowadays consists of two parts. The ex-part of Ireland from 6 provinces that nowadays belong to the UK, the Wales. So the Welsh accent. The Welsh accent is typical by its very melodical sounds. When you hear people in English like singing, you know that for English generally it's typical making links, like we do not make the breaks between the words. For the Welsh, make it double. They are singing. The Scottish one, historically it's meant to be that in the 1st century Roman invaders came to the land from the north, to the British Isles from the north. So the Scottish people themselves consider to be even not English. They are historically Romans. So that's why their language probably sounds a bit different. Their accent sounds a bit different, and the most typical point in this is that they do not pronounce R, they pronounce R. They say hurry up, be careful. So it's like Italian speaking, because they were Romans initially. The fourth one, the scouse. It doesn't belong to Scotland at all. The scouse, also called Liverpoolian accent, what appeared lately in the UK due to Beatles. You know that Beatles lived in Liverpool. This is their native city, and before them no one had any idea about it because it's enough small and it was enough grey and dull. But after Beatles came into the show and started being very popular all over the world, Liverpool also was restorated, and nowadays it is one of the main sightseeings in the UK. And the accent that is spoken in Liverpool, it is also enough fashionable, and we determine it due to 1/3. British themselves say that 1/3 of the scouse belongs to Scottish, so they do say R, hurry up. The 1/3 belongs to Irish, about which we're going to speak a little bit later, and 1/3 is spoken into your nose like you've been cold. If you listen to Beatles songs, you probably can hear some main points of it, because they preserved it. The next one, the Cockney. The Cockney accent is completely opposite to the posh. The Cockney accent was and is spoken by the working class, by the people in the early times poor, today in the middle social class. Initially, these people were not able to read and write, so that's why they pronounced the language by listening to other people. They were learning it, which means that they didn't have any understanding of how language is being built. That's why you can hear a lot of oi, not find, for example, but find, I find. Also, it is typical for the Cockney to say not the sound, but v sound. For example, the, not the, but the. So, as I told you, you should be respectful to these people because historically they couldn't read and write. The next one is the Irish, and here you must be careful because the language in its developing is changing in the direction of accents. It's just about some different vowels or consonants, the pronunciation, or it can be also changed into dialect, where you can already meet some habits of people to behave in speaking, or just another words for the same things. What is typical for the Irish in the behavior? They almost always omit yes and no. So if you ask an Irish, can you swim? He'll probably answer, I can. He won't answer yes, I can. Or for example, do you work? The Irish answer is I do, not yes, I do. The same as with no, yes. Would you like coffee? I wouldn't. This is the thing. We go to the West. We also speak today about the American accent. But this is probably the most typical one. You can hear it in all of the radio stations, and the TV, and YouTube, everywhere now. People mostly speak the American accent, which is determined by O to A, and O to A and A to E. For example, American people do not say hot, they say hot, and they say, for example, not America, but America. Yes, so this is the thing. And of course, a lot of By the way, which is also typical going back to Irish. The Irish people also pronounce very, very loudly and very melodically. And this is historically, geographically connected because the most of settlers to the American island, to the American continent in the beginning were mostly Irish people. And the southern US, which is completely different to the American in comparison to the American accent. And in my opinion, for me, being an English teacher, one of the most difficult ones to understanding. The southern US is spoken by southern people, like they say by themselves, we are southern, it is hot here, we have a lot of time, we are lazy, and that's why they like yawning all the time. Yes, and that's why you hear a lot of yeah. They stretch the words, they make stresses in predictable places, and they you have the feeling that it is so lazy to them to speak like this. For example, they never say hello guys, they say hey y'all, that you wouldn't probably understand by meeting a Southern American person. The New York, of course, New York stands separate from all of them. This is the big city, this is the megapolis, this is just different country already today, which is full of immigrants, was always full of different immigrants, different people from different countries that were studying English because they needed to live and to work there. That's why here there is a big mutation of the language, a big one, where are no standards of speaking English completely. For example, the New Yorker can omit the ending, like I want, but I want. Not I want, but I want. They say that coffee, but coffee. They can say impredictably in some places, like not idea, but I have an idea. And you can't follow the tendency. There is no tendency there. People just speak like they want, because there are a lot of foreigners in this city. And the Australian one, in my scale, this is the second, the most difficult one, because it is already the dialect. It's not just the accent, it's the dialect. There are a lot of different to English words, different ones. Especially, for example, it's just not about different words, but just about the shorting in the words. For example, they do not say breakfast, they say brekkie. They don't say truck, but truckie. And when they speak quickly, when an Australian man speaks quickly, it is very difficult to understand them. But relax, if you speak English well, you can. You just have to listen very carefully. It's not that difficult. And the Canadian, the last one, you know that in Canada live also a lot of French people, and the thing that is typical for Canadian is also typical for French, by the way. They put "eh" in the end of all of the questions to make sure that you've heard that they were asking. Like, for example, is it colder, or is it warmer? Not is it warm, but is it warmer? To make sure. So these are 11 English accents I wanted to present you today. Do not be afraid, relax. Just learn the English in your way, and believe me that being in the area, in the atmosphere of English language, needing to work there, to communicate, to contact to people, you will easily get the point. Just don't be afraid, don't close yourself, don't build this wall, don't build this barrier, and go on and speak and enjoy the communication with different and interesting people that are around you. And I wish you a nice day. See you next week. Bye!